We've got Matt Barry of the Bruins Benders podcast on here. You guys can obviously catch them after every game, which includes this one tonight against Chicago, an absolute barn burner up at the TD Garden. The Blackhawks, Pat Maroon's last trip to his fabled home of Boston, where he spent half the season. But I do want to talk about Nikita Zadorov a little bit, because this is something that we've talked about on this show. You've talked about it with Smitty on the Bruins Benders podcast. Like, Zadorov has left a lot to be desired as a player, but it does seem like there's been some leadership there. The guys respond to him, and he takes ownership of things on the ice, so to speak. And I've talked about him being an alternate captain next year. I know you guys have talked about it too. But now there's some other rumors coming out. This was from the What Chaos guys who were on 98.5 yesterday. I'm going to play this. It's about a minute long. But they have some interesting insights on Nikita Zadorov and kind of what things went on behind the scenes with the Bruins this year.
Like getting those guys from Vancouver, and I don't know if it was too much pressure on them or if Zadorov came in thinking that he was going to be more of a leader on the team or whatever, but clearly it all started off with those guys not fitting as well as we thought.
So look, you said about Zadorov, you don't know if he thought he was going to be the leader or what. So what you're telling me is he thought he was coming in as kind of a captain, and he's acted now that Marchand's gone, you can see he's sort of acting like he's in charge of the team. He was the one talking about Swayman, etc. So are you basically suggesting that Zadorov came in and wanted to introduce some sort of power struggle?
What I will say about Zadorov is I think that he didn't wait for Marchand to leave to start acting like he was the captain. I think that is his personality.
Yes.
And I think that you look at sort of his track record. We like him as a guest. We like him as a personality. His track record has not been particularly favorable in a lot of the locker rooms that he's been in. He's burned a lot of bridges.
Now that's interesting. The burning the bridges part. This is his 7th team in 12 seasons. But yet you don't hear, like, there was never like a rush to get Zadorov out of a place. In fact, Vancouver loved him for the half season last year. So Matt, I just want your reaction to that, because it surprised me a little bit. Obviously he is, a big personality, but I wasn't expecting to hear that.
I'm going to give Don Sweeney a lot more credit than he probably deserves. I'm going to say that he had foreshadowing and went out and got Zadorov to help change the culture of the team. There was too much passengers, too many people who wanted to run the ship and running coaches out. And I feel like maybe he thought he was losing control of the room and the inmates who were running the asylum and all that type of stuff. And then maybe he brought in Zadorov and paid him a little extra to come in here and start kicking some ass and start holding guys accountable. It would make perfect sense now if that was the case. But again, I'm giving Don Sweeney probably too much credit to think of that ahead of time, but it would make a lot of sense if he is at least an assistant or even a captain next year. And we've been lobbying for it on the podcast. He should be the captain. Charlie McAvoy has shown us really nothing to be the captain. Like an A, sure, whatever. But the captain, we have been lobbying for Zadorov for the last couple of months. So I think that all makes sense if that's what it was. And I think that's what the team needs, to be honest with you.
That was kind of my next question, because they go on to say very abrasive and rub some people the wrong way. And when I heard that, I'm like, good. There's problems in this locker room, and there was an entitlement issue. You basically fired a coach more or less over an entitlement issue. And you're going to run. Poor Joe Sacco has kind of been the sacrificial lamb in the rest of the season. So that is what I'm kind of thinking too, is these guys do need a bit of a kick in the ass. And there's not much you can do with this roster, what it is right now. But I'll tell you one guy who, not that he was playing poorly at the beginning of the season or in any of the last few seasons, but a guy who's been kicking ass since Marchand's been out of the room, and it's been Zadorov's team, so to speak, Zadorov's locker room, is David Pastrnak. And he has elevated everybody. There's not much you can do with this roster, but maybe that is the long-term fix. Maybe Nikita Zadorov is what this team needs. Like,
funny how just when Marchand left, that Pastrnak just took off. And there was all that talk from Rich Keefe about how, there might have been a rift there and there might have been something going on there. Marchand blew it off and then ripped Rich Keefe, which led me to believe there was some truth to it.
Yeah.
And he leaves, Marchand, and Pastrnak just completely takes off and takes the team under his wing. Now the team still sucks, but he's been like an elite player. Like he is the top 5-on-5 player in the league. Like he has over 100 points in a team that is just terrible. Has nobody else can score other than him and his line mate. So he has been unbelievable, like terrific. And it was all after the deadline. And it's not all after. I mean, he played fairly well before that, but he's really taken off after it. And I'm wondering if Zadorov and Pastrnak are like taking the team on the, under their wing and being like, okay, the new guard now, which I think is great for the team. Like if that's the case, then that's the first step, honestly. I mean, players, whatever, you're going to have to get some players. I don't know how you do it, but at least the culture and the compete level and all that stuff, if that changes because of Zadorov and Pasternak's with him, great. I mean, that's the first step.
And I'll say this about Zadorov too. Again, we talk about the play on the ice. He's not been horrible, all told. He's actually been fine. Especially on this team, right? Like he's actually probably good compared to the rest of this team. And I look at two things. I look at him knocking the shit out of Sam Bennett, and I look at him talking about Jeremy Swayman when Swayman was standing up for his guys. He's like, is that what you call it? Like that to me, and the way he plays, you know what? The first thing I think of is like the dude, the poor guy, he was born too late. 25 years ago, like this is Scott Stevens. This is Darian Hatcher. Like those guys were pricks. They were this big physical defensemen, and those guys were running locker rooms in this league and winning cups 25 years ago. And for Zadorov, it's 7 teams in 12 years. But I'm hoping that is kind of, he brings that kind of edge to the Bruins, and maybe that can still work in the 2020s. I hope it can. Chara was a little bit of that, but not really what this is. I'm hoping that's what this becomes.
I think, and I hope so too. And again, I think that's what they need. And I think if Zadorov can do that for them, and Zadorov has been okay in the last couple of months. Like in the beginning of the season, there was some struggles. And last year he had a great playoff with Vancouver. He's a guy who elevates his game when the games are bigger. There haven't been any big games. So that's but he's a plus player on a team that has a goal differential like minus 60 or whatever it is.
Yeah, true.
He's doing, he's doing God's work without Lindholm and McAvoy and bringing Lowry on, who's a plus 37 or whatever he is. And, so there's not a lot there, the Wotherspoons and the Mitchells and the Callahans and he's been kind of the glue that kind of keeps it all together on the back end. So I have really come around on him some. Look, I don't think he's the greatest player in the world. There's going to be times where you get pissed off at him. But there were times you got pissed off and irritated with Chara, when he was getting later in life. So I think it's great for the team, really, if he could just take that sort of attitude on. We've been saying this for a while. They need pricks. Like when they won the whole thing, they had Ferentz and McQuaid, guys who would they might kill you like in the parking lot. I mean, they had that edge to them, and they need that, and they haven't had that.
Yeah, it felt like you had one of those on almost every line on the 2011 team. Like Thornton was there, obviously Lucic is on your first line. Like you just didn't fuck with that first line, man. And it had Horton and Krejci on it, who were not big fighters either. And there is still an edge needed, I think, and it's evidenced by the Panthers going to back-to-back Cup finals. They won the whole thing last year. There definitely still needs to be that kind of edge, and you also need the high-end talent, which one guy has on the Boston Bruins. I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, Matt, but this David Pastrnak season, maybe outside of the Tim Thomas 2011, is the most impressive individual season for a Bruin I've seen in my lifetime and my 20 years of watching this team. To get to 100 points on this dog shit team and have over 65 on 5 points, which leads the league. And it's a team that's awful 5 on 5. This is, I mean, he's doing things that only Gretzky and Lemieux have done in terms of, I think it's 13 straight goals that he had a hand in for the team. Is this up there with one of the great individual seasons you've seen that's just being wasted for the Bruins?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Being wasted is that's the key word. Yeah. It's being wasted. I mean, but for a team as bad as this to have this type of year, I mean, when they were bad in the past in 06 and then back in 96, 97, they didn't have a player like this playing at this level. And it's like when you're out playing with playing with like some guys, when you're a kid at playing street hockey, and then you're getting killed all afternoon. So you go get your bigger brother. So you come in and make it more respectable. That's what it looks like. Times like he's out there, he's got the puck all the time, he's making plays. Here's the other thing about him. Two more things about him. If he plays the last 3 games, that's 3 straight years of 82 games. Like 3 straight full seasons for a guy like him, who's not overly big, not overly physical, not meant to be like an endurance kind of guy. He plays every game, 1. And then 2, his assists are way up. Like he's going to get his 2nd straight 60 assist season. Who people think is a natural goal scorer, and that's all he does. Wrong. Like, so he sets up. Morgan Geekie should give him half his paycheck when he signs it. Like
no doubt.
Those are a couple other points that people have to recognize. Like he plays all the time, and he plays a lot of minutes. This is the most minutes he's played on average, like 21 plus or whatever it is, and then all the assists. Like he's becoming a more complete player.
Absolutely. And like you look at the 2 years ago, I think it was 110 points with 61 goals, which means 61 goals, 59 assists on a line with, Marchand and Bergeron. So he's just the goal scorer for a long time, but he can create. I mean, and he's done it. And look, Leon Draisaitl's having a great year. Take nothing away from him. Kucherov, same thing. But they're playing on 2 great lines. Pasternak's playing with Zacha and Geekie and Casey Middlestat. Like this is unthinkable, and it's too bad that it gets totally lost. Like no one pays attention to what he's doing with this.
And Draisaitl and either Draisaitl or McKinnon will probably win it, but Pastrnak deserves Hart Trophy consideration, big time, or something, because he deserves because he's just been a good soldier. Now the offseason in his exit interview, I would sit down with Don Sweeney and say, Donnie, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here, bud?
This is going to be a long interview. This better be a long interview.
Yeah, he's going to, if I were him, I'd say, give me a clear plan right now, because he can't keep doing this. And, they're wasting his prime years.
That's the big thing. Yeah, he's turning 29 in May, which they won't be playing in May.
Right.
We're talking about, 2-3 years of real prime seasons left with him.
Yeah.
And at the least, he's got to get a guarantee of like, okay, Pasta, by like 31, your age 31, we're going to be really in this thing, and I don't know how much that's, I don't know if that's Don Sweeney writing a check he can't cash. I bet he can't, but it's also going to be a long, hard look for the Jacobs family. I know they've said, these are our guys for some reason, Don Sweeney and Cam Neely, we're sticking with them. We trust them. But you got to look at it from a hockey sense, which I know they don't like to do. But like David Pastrnak is about halfway to Ray Bourque's points record for the Bruins. And he's not even 29 years old yet. Like we're talking about a guy who could finish on the Mount Rushmore of one of the great franchises in the history of the league. Like that's a real possibility. Yeah. And you're just going to tell him that we trust Don Sweeney and we're going to retool throughout your late 20s. To me, that's bullshit. Like it can't happen. So, man, there's so much. And it starts with this year. So let's play it out. They're picking in the top 5. I know you guys have talked about this a little bit on the pod. Is there anyone in particular that stands out for you in this draft? I know it's not the best draft in the world. It's not the Connor Bedard or a Connor McDavid kind of draft. So who is it for you that stands out among the prospects?
Well, I if you can get number 1, I think they probably get Shea for the defenseman, because he has comparisons of being kind of like he could be a franchise guy at defense, and then you can have him as a left shot next to McAvoy. That's enticing. But if not, I really like Frondell, and Tom Frondell is a most NHL ready, bigger guy, more complete player type at his age right now. I like Frondell. It's definitely a crapshoot. I mean, James Higgins from BC has some questions. He was the preseason kind of number 1 consensus. Now he's dropped to 3 or 4. I don't want them to reach. Don't just get some guy who was 15th in Central Scouting because you think he has potential. You can't go by potential right now. You don't have that luxury anymore. You have to go by who is the best player available, and can he get here as quickly as he can. You don't have a 65-win team anymore where you can kind of play it and see, be cute. You can't be cute. You got to go out and get the guy. So I don't know. They all seem to have a little bit of questions here or there. Schaefer or Misa would be first or second, I think. And then I like Frundell, but I don't know what I'm talking about.
So what you're telling me is they will draft James Higgins, and within a week of his first game, they'll say that they're trying to make him into Charlie Coyle.
Yeah, he'll be Zach. And then they've already tried.
That was I know you guys did that on the post game the other night. That was nuts. I'm like, can we just use the talent these guys have?
A young guy who actually has a little bit of offensive skill. You saw it the other night. He scored a goal, like a really nice goal. And then we're going to try to make him a defensive, player and a bottom sixer. And they have this thing about 200-foot game and all that stuff. Not everybody can be the best defensive player because largely you'll be sucky on offense, which you are.
Yeah.
So
they want to make another Patrice Bergeron. I'm like, man,
right.
Generational. Like they're just, and anyone who played with him will tell you he's one of the best players I've ever played with or against. Like that's just not, those don't happen. You don't make those, right? Like you really
team full of birds.
It's just great. It's just never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got 3 games left in the season, and then we're on full on tank watch. Well, actually, you know what? Unfortunately, with the Panthers slipping, we now have to root for the underdog Florida Panthers to get through 2 rounds to get an extra first round pick. So what are you looking for in these last few games, or kind of what is the next landmark that you're looking for the Bruins in their retool, not a rebuild, retool?
Well, I mean, I'd like them to be at 4th. I'd like them to try to get a ping pong ball that hits right. But if they pick 4th, right around there, like I said, they'll get a good center that they can develop. I don't have any trust in their development system, but they can get a guy who has some potential anyway. And then in the offseason, they have to pray that a guy will come here or they can make a trade. Maybe Zacha becomes available. That's a guy I would kick the tires on and send out there. He's got a decent contract. He has the ability to get 50 or 60 points. Maybe somebody will give you something for him because there's a logjam at center right now. And I don't think he's a great center. So I would try him out on the market. He or Middlestat and see what happens there. But it's going to be really hard for them to get better quickly because there's just not a lot out there after Bennett and those guys. They're going to probably re-sign. And then maybe Nikolai Ehlers. If you can get him, that'd be great. But anybody is better than what you have. But
that's true.
Interesting off season. Really interesting.
Yeah, and one of the biggest in recent memory for the Bruins. You can hear Matt Barrie and Smitty tonight after the Blackhawks game. They will have after every game that we still have in this season, and the Bruins Benders podcast will keep us updated all season long. Do you guys have one out today? Is that right? Thursday?
We're going to have one out probably tomorrow or Saturday.
Okay.
Doing a subscription service. We're going to do some Benders off-air content, similar to like Thulgren and Maz off-air kind of thing. They're going to do subscription only for short money, $5 a month, and we're setting that up right now for the off season to begin then, and then we're going to do the 3 post games at the end of this season, and then do a bunch of draft talk during the summer. So we got it going on.
Love that. Bruins Benders doing some big things here. That's Matt Barrie, the Bruins Benders podcast. Matt, appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk with you next week.
You got it, Cam. Thanks so much.